cold and rough winter.
This past Friday, we had our annual winter rally. At this rally, all winter sports were recognized, such as our amazing women and men's basketball, soccer, and wrestling teams. Volunteering students at the rally got to play games and win prizes while their peers cheered them on.
In the upcoming celebration of Black History Month of February, ASB and Sheldon's Black Student Union will hold an annual announcement on our daily bulletin about strong African American leaders, activists, and idols that make up our American history. With the help of ASB and the great ideas of our BSU, we'll also be holding a Spirit Week from February 24th to the 28th. We'll be having days like 90s hip hop, where students got to dress up in their 90s fashion influenced icons like Will Smith or Snoop Dogg. We also hold Pan-African Day, in which students dress in colors like red, green, and black, celebrating the strengthening bonds of solidarity between all indigenous and ethnic groups of African descent. Continuing with more February festivities, we also have our Sheldon's company, Universal Rhythm, performing for their annual main stage event, which is from February 20th to the 21st and the 22nd. It's $10 pre-sale and $12 at the door. We invite all of the board to come and join in celebration of our annual performance.
Now moving on to our amazing winter sports, men's and women's soccer were performing well and hoping to make a play push in their final weeks of the season. Sheldon wrestlers are representing the Huskies proudly. Both Sheldon's basketball programs are competing at a high level and hope to make a deep playoff run. Coach Joey Rawlings was recently recognized by the Sacramento Bee as the area's coach of the decade. This is a tremendous honor that he was proud to receive.
We would like to thank you for your time and look forward to reporting later in the year with updates to the board with positive things that happen at our Sheldon campus. Lastly, we encourage all to make kindness normal and hope to live by the question we ask our students and classmates, which is, what have you done for others today?
Thank you. I'd like to have our last school of the night, Elk Grove Charter.
Good evening, President Albiani, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. We are representatives from the Elk Grove Charter Leadership Program. My name is Paulina Oliva.
And I'm Malika Khan. Today we're here to discuss our current and future 2019 to 2020 school events.
Every quarter, a teacher selects a student that has been an exceptional Falcon, which means that the student has shown excellence in the classroom and on campus by implementing SOAR. By following SOAR, the student has been safe, organized, accountable, and respectful. The awarded students are provided with a lunch where families are welcome to join them, as well as their teachers, and they can communicate the students' accomplishments. At the end of each semester, Charter holds a semester awards ceremony. We had our semester awards won ceremony on January 29th at the Elk Grove Pavilion. 8 students were awarded for perfect attendance, 38 students for honors, and 12 students who were awarded for principal's list.
Charter has started to offer new honor curriculums for students that require more rigorous curriculum. Along with honor classes, there have also been a couple of new clubs that have been initiated, such as our barbecue club that gives students a hands-on experience and an introduction into the culinary world. We have also started a program called Volo Sports Academy. It is for students with a passion for soccer. The program allows students with busy schedules to balance school and soccer. One of our students, Mario Penagos, recently signed a professional contract with the Sacramento Republic, and we look forward to watching him play for years to come.
On the first Wednesday of each month, Falcons go out and pick up trash in the community. This teaches our students responsibility and implements good citizenship skills. The hours spent cleaning out our neighborhood can also be used towards community service hours. Our F&L club has flourished in the past few years. They are currently working on a social norms campaign that enlightens students on campus about the false stereotypes of underage drinking. Currently, 86% of ninth graders have not tried alcohol. The campaign is inspired by the 80s to garner the students' attention. The purpose of the campaign is to help students understand that many of their peers do not participate in underage drinking, contrary to the popular belief portrayed by movies and social media. FNL also works towards creating a healthier alcohol and tobacco-free environment. And with the help of the district, FNL has been successful in putting tobacco-free signs near school premises where significant amounts of cigarette butts and other tobacco remains were found.
Next up, we have our school activities. We have continued some of our students' and parents' favorite activities, which include but are not limited to open houses, family falcon dinners, spirit weeks, holiday grams for friends and teachers. Not to mention our seasonal activities such as spooky nachos, snow days, and so on. Before the start of our 2019 to 2020 school year, we hosted the Senior Sunrise. Our seniors were given the chance to familiarize themselves with their peers over a delicious breakfast and a spectacular sunrise. Our leadership class went on an ice skating trip where they were slipping and sliding all over the place. Our seniors also took a trip to the Moaning Caverns where they learned about the history of exploration and mining of the California's gold rush. They had a chance to go deep into the cavern and experience what it felt like to have no light whatsoever around you. After learning about and exploring the cavern, the seniors had a chance to go ziplining. We have also started to offer lunch services at Elk Grove Charter this year, and we have provided lockers for students. We have expanded our bench area to accommodate students with more space just in between classes and for lunch.
Now as for the future events, we will be doing the college tours to Sac State, UC Davis, and Berkeley. We will also have our junior and senior prom, and in preparation for the 2020 graduates, the school will be hosting a senior barbecue. Seniors will also get the opportunity to celebrate graduation with their peers at Universal Studios. Before ending the school year, Elk Grove Charter holds an end-of-the-year carnival. And last but not least, we will hold the 8th grade promotion on May 28th and the graduation ceremony for the class of 2020 on May 29th.
Thank you for your time and a good evening to all.
Thank you very much. I wanted to recognize Dr. Eugene Christmas with Elk Grove High School, Zach Newton from Sheldon High School, and Seth Tosta from Elk Grove Charter School. Thank you very much for being here and bringing us your students. Students, thank you for wonderful reports. You're free to go home and do homework. I'd like to call on Ms. Pinkerton to talk about the Kids Can Food Drive recognition, please.
Good evening, Board President Albiani, Superintendent Hoffman, members of the board, and Ms. Avalos. So every year, the Elk Grove Unified School District rallies together to get as much food collected for the Food Kids Can Drive, or the Kids Can Food Drive, I should say. And tonight we have representatives from the Elk Grove Food Bank here to recognize 3 of our schools who did an outstanding job collecting lots of cans for the Cans Drive. So we have from the Elk Grove Food Bank, Miss Betty Hall, Miss Marie Giacchino, and Miss Valerie Irwin, sorry. And if they could please come up. Valerie Irwin is our volunteer coordinator. She works with our school sites, does a great job helping all of our areas collect the foods and all the cans. Miss Betty Hall is the president and board of directors, and Marie Giacchino is the executive director. So they're going to come up. I'm also going to ask for the students so they can, and the schools so they can come up. We have, I think, 3 of them here who are going to be here tonight from Elliott Ranch Elementary School. They can come on up to be recognized as well. And Joseph Kerr. Representatives from Joseph Kerr Middle School, come on up. And Pleasant Grove High School. So Miss Irwin is going to go ahead and talk to you a little bit about what these students did, but I thought it'd be great to have them all up here so you can see who did a lot of the work and why they're getting the recognition they're getting.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Directors, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. Thank you for the opportunity to recognize the efforts of all of the students and staff of the Elk Grove Unified School District in the 2019 KCRA Kids Can Food Drive. This year's food drive was a huge success. We had a total of 36 EGUSD schools participate, plus the school district office. And thanks to the help of the amazing school coordinators at each of the sites, we collected a total of 74,957 pounds of food. I was truly moved to tears when I saw the outpouring from our schools and watched as the donations came in to fill our shelves. It truly was a blessing. First, I would like to congratulate Elliott Ranch Elementary School for their amazing donation of 4,371 pounds. Their Kids Can coordinator was Miss Adrienne Clemens. The students at Joseph Kerr Middle School, under the direction of Mr. Chris Paris, collected 3,361 pounds of food on our behalf. And again, Pleasant Grove High School, under the direction of the activity coordinator, Mr. Jeff Platt, their students collected a whopping 11,907 pounds of food. Thank you so much to everyone who contributed and assisted this year. We are overwhelmed by the giving spirits that we got to participate with. As we all know, it takes a village, and thanks to the amazing village that is the Elk Grove Unified School District, we were able to fill the need and feed the hope for hundreds of our neighbors this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all you do. Parents, you're welcome to come up in front of the tables, the white tables, and take a picture as close as you would like. What a fantastic job. Thank you again for all your hard work, students. I'd like to now call up Ms. Danielle Black for African American History Month.
Good evening, Board President Albiani, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. I am excited for the opportunity to be in front of you guys again and share with you some of the things that CPL is doing for African American History Month. I believe that you got information about what the schools are doing, and I'll focus just a little bit about what we've been doing in CPL. With Ed Services, it's important to note that everything we do lives in our E4, and as someone who oversees history, social science, and PE, I appreciate the term every subject every day, making sure that our students are college, career, and life ready. Looking at our strategic goals, again, whenever we're planning something or really thinking about what we're doing, we're considering all of those in the work that we do. Our graduate profile is also important because we want students to be able to think, plan, connect, communicate, engage, and act. but some of that also means we're providing training for teachers, paraeducators, and substitutes to support our students in meeting this graduate profile. That also brings us to our equity lens and making sure, again, when we're thinking about what we're doing, we're looking at multiple lenses. So for the workshops that I'm presenting for African American History Month, it was open to paraeducators, credentialed teachers, substitutes, so that way everyone gets the opportunity to engage in conversations. I did want to start with something that we did for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, is that I wanted to make sure that teachers knew in our new K-8 History, Social Science instructional materials, there were specific lessons at each grade level on Dr. King so that they could engage in lessons in their new materials. So what's here is just the example from the kindergarten book, but again, letting them know that because our new materials are more inclusive than they've been, they did have access to a tool they could use. This is the 4th grade example that was looking at protesting for change, which was part of the California history content standards, but there was also information in there about Dr. King as a primary source. In addition to that, there was links that were sent to provide teachers with some other places they could go for resources if they were looking for ways to bring greater depth to their lesson on Dr. King, and looking at a variety of primary sources at different grade levels. With regards to African American History Month in January, after the resolution was passed, principals all received this resource list that was curated from a variety of resources out there to, again, help in the development of what they might be doing for their programming at the school site, but then also for teachers to use in their classroom. For each year, the Carter G. Woodson Foundation puts out a theme for African American History Month, and so this year is African Americans and the Vote. So on the back side of this page were specific lessons related to African Americans in the vote. Again, available for K-12, for teachers and school sites to be provided with some support in the work that they are doing. For my part here, one of the things that I'm doing this month is providing a workshop called Building Cultural Awareness, African American Migrations in the United States. African migrations was last year's theme for African American History Month, and so there's a lot of resources that have been made available because that was the theme. And again, as I mentioned, it was open to certificated teachers, administrators, paraeducators, substitutes, and we actually have 50 people registered, 2 on the waiting list, so it's going to be well attended by those who choose to come. The focus of that workshop, we're going to look at Jacob Lawrence's murals that look at migration. We're also going to look directly at primary sources because that's important not just for what we're doing in the classroom, but for other people to understand how you can analyze primary sources. One of the key primary sources are actually from census data. That's how we know that there was this great migration, because of what we learned from the census. And since it is the census year, it's reinforcing again the importance of census data. And then also, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about one of the reasons why so many people were fleeing the South was because of the violence. And so Teaching Tolerance has a documentary called An Outrage that looks at that violence that was perpetrated against African Americans as one of the leading causes and reasons why they were leaving. So we'll also view a portion of that during this workshop. So I'm very excited that we have so many people interested in participating, and perhaps I'll come back and let you all know how it goes. Or you can join us February 13th in Conference Room 117. So I don't know if you have any questions, but I thank you for the opportunity to present this information to you.
Do we have any questions? Thank you very much. And thank you for your work to provide something for our staff. I have a public comment. Oh, thank you, Ms. Black.
Good evening, school board. Last year I came before you when you presented African American History Month, and I told you that a lot of us do not identify as African American. I would like to go back to the origins. The Origins Negro History Week was presented in 1926 by Carter G. Woodson. It then was federally recognized in 1976 as Black History Month. This African American thing, that is something that is for politically correct people. I need y'all to get comfortable with saying black. because there is a problem in this district with black children, and we need some solutions from your black community. So I just wanted to get up and say that I am not comfortable with African American History Month. If you're going to put that in there, I suggest you put a slash that also mentions black. Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to take this time now to honor our education partner, Miss Bowie, and her family. If we can have them come up, and we have Miss Nancy Perez Espinoza has a few words to say.
If you'll come up to the podium, please.
Miss Mayor, if you'll come join your family.
Miss Mayor, you can join them
Thank
as well.
you.
You can step right up. So welcome Miss Bowie and the Bowie family, and Miss Mayer, principal of Arlene Hine Elementary School. Tonight, Arlene Hine Elementary School and the school board want to recognize Miss Wendy Bowie as our education partner. Miss Bowie and her husband, Alan, are the parents of 2 sons who have attended Arlene Hine Elementary School since kindergarten. We have with us Jaden, who is in 6th grade, and Ryan, who is in 4th grade. Mrs. Bowie regularly volunteers in the classroom since her eldest son, Ryan, entered kindergarten. She works in her son's classrooms 2 to 3 days per week by helping students with reading, classroom projects, and much more. She's also been active in the school PTO and helping with the monthly movies, book fairs, school pictures, and several community events. Most recently, Mrs. Bowie has worked for months in the front office as a substitute office assistant. Even Zender Ranch Elementary has grabbed Mrs. Bowie to work in their front office. Mrs. Bowie has a warm and friendly demeanor. She always goes above and beyond to provide our families with registration and other important information. She makes our families feel welcome every time they enter the Arlene Hine office. And we are honored to have the Bowies as part of the Hawk family and the Elk Grove Unified family. Thank you for all that you've done to enrich the lives of the Arlene Hine Elementary School community. And if you'll stay there just 1 second. A couple of small tokens of our appreciation. This is for you, and this is for you as well. Thank you. Dante, can we get a picture?
We can have another round of applause, please. Thank you very much, Ms. Bowie. I'd like to call on Mr. Murray for a recognition of School Counseling Week.
Thank you, President Albiani, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. At this point, I'd like to request that Ms. Nicole Brown, our district head counselor, join me, and I believe also we have Han Tron, the head counselor from Otter Trail High School, here to join us as well. So tonight, we'd like to request that the Board of Education approve resolution number 49, the 2019-20, recognizing February 3rd through 7th, 2020 as National School Counseling Week.
Thank you. Good evening. The week of February 3rd through the 7th, 2020 marks National School Counseling Week and provides the board with an opportunity to acknowledge our school counselors for their tremendous impact they have in helping students achieve academic success and plan for their futures. In addressing areas such as student achievement and college and career planning and providing social emotional support and crisis response, school counselors play a critical role in student success as well as in early intervention and prevention through counseling and guidance programs that provide direct services to students and their families. The district's counseling program is considered exemplary throughout the region. Our counselors have aligned their work with both the national and California standards for school counseling programs as a means of increasing student achievement.
The district and our community appreciate and recognize the work of our counselors in providing students with necessary guidance to support their academic, their social, personal, and post-secondary success. This evening, we ask the board to approve resolution number 49 to recognize our school counselors during National School Counseling Week.
I would like to call for a motion to adopt Resolution 49, recognizing February 3rd through 7th, 2020 as National School Counseling Week.
So moved.
So moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work. I'd like to move to the request for student expulsions. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board in closed session regarding a student expulsion? Seeing no one, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the request for student expulsion. Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to call a motion to approve the request for return from student expulsion.
So move.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right. We have a number of blue cards. I will call two so you know who's next. And we have 3 minutes, and please be respectful of the time. We'll start with Catherine Mers for our Montessori Minute, followed by Tina Gray and Mike Anderson.
So good evening. My name is Kathleen Mers, and this is my Montessori Minute. We just sent 138 children to Coloma and Sly Park Outdoor Educational Schools, 6 teachers, 18 parent chaperones, and 38 parent drivers made this happen. We are beginning our CASP ELA interim comprehensive assessments this week. And this month, our character education focus is on community. So this trait, on February 14th, CMP students will be assembling bags during our community supply drive. And these bags containing personal hygiene items and socks will be delivered to Loaves and Fishes. Our goal is to assemble 500 of them, which is almost 1 per student. And then lastly, at the end of the month, the Elk Grove campus will be holding its annual art walk and live performance evenings. Thank you so much and have a beautiful evening.
Thank you for being here. Tina Gray and Mr. Anderson will be followed by Ophelia Howard.
So Tina and I came here in August asking for some approval to name our gym. We did that a week and a half ago and just want to come in, and Tina wanted to say a few words, and then we have a short video to show you of the unveiling.
Hello. We are here to thank all the people who helped us achieve our goal in naming our gym, the Carrie Ladd Gymnasium. Everyone had a part in the success of getting the letters installed, were kind and thoughtful and helpful with this project. First, I would like to thank Superintendent Hoffman and the members of the school board for voting in favor of the project. I want to thank Rob Pierce for helping us navigate the process of and the introduction of us at the board meeting and sharing kind words that people spoke of Carrie. The Director of Facilities and Maintenance, Bill Harton, for meeting with us and assuring that this would get done on time, making sure that everything would look nice for the people who attended. And a special thanks goes out to the men who installed the signage on our gym. Joe Slayton and his team, Carrie Anderson, Robert Aguelo, Carlos Barosa, and Nick Webb. They were the best. They communicated with us and made sure that we knew when it was going to be installed. They came back to cover the project so there would be a proper unveiling. And in fact, they had to come back multiple times due to the weather. It felt like they had something invested in our project. I felt like a friend of theirs because they showed so much care for me. Carrie Anderson even stopped by a couple of days after our unveiling ceremony just to see how it went. I want to make sure that I communicated how much I really appreciated the work that everyone did to make this project successful. So a big thank you to everyone. And now we have a video that we want to show you of our bulletin that went out yesterday.
This was made by 7th and 8th graders, so it's not Dateline clock.
Challenge, but they were so supportive all along the way, from the initial telling us how to do this to the installing the letters. So I'm going to turn this over to T. She's going to try to say some words, be supportive of her, and then we're going to unveil some letters. They're beautiful, and then we're going to say a little prayer, and then meet.
First, you know, I didn't expect this many people, so I really appreciate it. And I'm seeing faces from the past, so thank you all for coming out. I know some of you all had to leave school early, but that's actually a good thing, isn't it? All right. Now, I gotta tell you all, this is tough. I didn't think it'd be this tough. I am honored to be able to be here today with you celebrating the naming of the Samuel Jackson Gym, the Carrie Ladd Gymnasium. And I am sure she is smiling down on us as we honor her. How many of us get a building named after us? Right? Nobody deserves this more than Carrie. Carrie always went above and beyond. Thank you so much.
Pennies for Patients is starting next week, Tuesday, February 11th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ophelia Howard, and following her will be Rashad Howard.
Hello.
Hello.
My name's Ophelia Howard. Unfortunately, what I have to say is not going to be as pleasant as what everybody else was here before me to say. I'd like to address what I would consider a kidnapping from Monterey Trails. On the 27th, my grandson had an altercation with another student. There was a phone call made for him to come pick for my grandson to be picked up. The father left to pick him up. He gets to the school. His son's not there. Well, he didn't think his son was there. The point I'm making is my grandson called me. I said, your dad's on his way. The dad calls me when he gets there. He says, Mom, there are police here, there's an ambulance. And I said, don't worry, your son's okay. I just spoke with him. Then he calls me back and tells me his son's on his way to jail. I'm just really saddened and broken that this happened to my grandson and that they both reached out to me, and I feel like I failed them. My grandson is still broken from that incident. He's gone to juvenile hall. He's never been in juvenile hall before. He spent 4 days in juvenile hall for something that was so small. I'm just really hurting. My family is hurting, and I'd like to see if there's something that we could do about that, because it was so unfair the way he was treated. My son was there looking for his son, and he was told that he didn't have to tell him anything. My grandson saw his dad. Now I want you guys to take a minute and think about this. When your parent is coming to rescue you, and you're in the back of the police car, and the police is telling you your dad can't save you. Didn't even acknowledge the fact that his father was there, and took him around the school and hid him. And that's why I say I consider this a kidnapping. So my family is broken. My grandson's on an ankle monitor. And I just like to know if there's something that we can do about this. All of this has been really nice that was being said, but we have other bigger issues at the Monterey Trail High School. So I think that we need to address those as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. Next, we have Tanisha Turner, followed by Lorraine Pryor.
How you guys doing? I'm Rashad Howard. My son was the one who was taken to jail. I received a phone call to pick my son up for a fight that he had at the school. And when I got there, I was greeted by an officer. Well, I knocked on the door where they told me to pick my son up from. And I was told by an officer my son was sent to juvenile hall. And I asked, you know what I mean? I asked, how did that happen? I'm asking why, like what's going on? I didn't know anything. And the officers there, they wouldn't tell me anything. And there was a vice principal there, and he also chose not to tell me anything that was going on with my son. I find out later that my son he seen me walk by, and I didn't think to look in the police car because I thought I was picking my son up. But my son said he seen me walk by and let the officer know that I was his father, and he drove my son to the back of the school and pretty much hid him from me. You know what I mean? And, you know, that was a very painful experience for me, man. Like, I feel violated as a man. My son feels violated. And I feel like, you know, like something needs to be changed or done, because I don't see how it goes from me coming to pick my son up to my son's going to juvenile hall, and nobody has any answers for me. I was literally shut down. No one had any answers for me. I don't know how that would feel to you guys if, you know, you're trying to find out some answers of what's going on with your son, and everybody's telling you they're not telling you anything. It's confidential. Like, that wasn't a good feeling at all for me. I just want to let you guys know that.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Tanisha. As you can see, I'm 8 months pregnant. I'm actually supposed to be on bed rest. That day, I received a phone call that my son was took from the school. His father couldn't even tell me, what happened, because all he did was tell me that he got a phone call, he was picking him up. He was in an altercation at school. He goes to pick him up. He doesn't know anything. He has nothing. I immediately jump up and run to the juvenile hall. The sad thing about it is I find the most hurtful part is that before this, I had an incident with my son who actually was an honor roll student at this same school, Monterey Trail. So I feel like there was more I should have done with the last incident, so maybe my other son wouldn't have to go through this. It wasn't as the same type of incident, but it was still where there was racism that was involved, where my son, who was a straight A student who now goes to Tulane University on a full ride scholarship, had a teacher, a media teacher, who kept him, holding him at an F, had him doing all kind of stuff after school, wouldn't change the F. I went to the school. I had a meeting with everyone at the school. The same night, that F changed to an A. I left the matter alone. I should have pushed forward, because now I have another son who is dealing with this. And it's not fair, because at that age, he sat in juvenile hall for 4 days. 4 days. When I got to visit him finally the next day, because they had no answers the night before, I slept or spent that night not being able to sleep because I had no answers. Nobody could tell me nothing, not even the juvenile hall. I needed to come back during regular hours. I received a phone call, 4 or 5 hours after the incident, where they let him call and tell me that he wasn't coming home and I needed to be at court on Thursday. That's it. That until the next day, I knew nothing. They just took my son. And I'm not even supposed to be here now, but there's no way after the first incident with my first son that I will let this happen again or to anyone else's child. The racism and how people are being treated, it's unfair. And it's not okay.
Thank you.
So as you can imagine, I'm not sad, I'm not broken, I'm kind of pissed off. We sat for months in a room with your legal, with your admin team, your cabinet. We hammered out policies so that things like this would not happen. I was on the receiving end of a phone call from the grandmother, and I asked her, because I couldn't talk at that time, I asked her to fill out the complaint form, and I received that from the father. I then met him at Monterey Trail on Monday, and I'm not a morning person. What I've ascertained is that you all had a safety and security specialist who was on campus to deliver something, who took it upon himself to make a call to the police. The administration did not do it. They, as a matter of fact, said they sent out a call that said they had it under control. So I want to know what part of this policy has the safety and security division of your school district learned? Have they been trained on it? Everybody spoke to me except for that one safety and security specialist. And it was probably in his best interest to not speak to me. But the way that I see it, when people behave badly, they don't want to talk. This young man told me that safety and security specialist taunted him, had him up against the fence and was taunting him. Do you want to go? You want to fight? Say something and I'll arrest you. I didn't know your safety and security specialist had that authority to arrest anybody. What are we doing? Every time I come before you, I'm telling you something that I'm seeing on your campuses. I'm asking you to address that pink elephant that continues to sit in this room called racism. I have to come up here and ask you to not say African American, say black. I have to sit in a room where we're going over statistics that I know are biased, and it's an insult to my intelligence to tell me one thing when I know something else. So this is where we are. I know that there are vacancies, or there should be vacancies on your SRO team. I want back on that hiring panel. Allegra and I want back on. We want to know who's policing our children. Since you don't want to get rid of them, we need to have purview and to see who's coming into contact with these kids. Parents need to be notified. It is nothing confidential about someone's child when they show up and they want some information about where their kids are. Confidentiality, there's no such thing. And you need to reprimand that VP Thatch over there. You need to reprimand him. It's unacceptable.
Thank you, Ms. Pryor. Allegra Taylor, followed by Charles Taylor.
Board members, we warned you that we did not want to be here about this again. As a safe black space facilitator, do you understand the trauma that you're causing our community? Obviously you don't. That mama should be in the bed, and I know what it's like to be bedridden with your child that you're trying to save their life. And instead, she's here, fighting for something that she shouldn't have to. All of you are responsible.
Ms. Taylor, you have all our attention.
Excuse me, don't you correct me.
I'm not
How
correcting
dare you? Until you walk in the shoes of black people And until you feel our trauma and our pain repeatedly over and over and over being disregarded for what it is that we give to you, and then you think you can correct me? No, you can't. Not
correcting
today.
you.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Not today, because I'm 5 seconds from going on social media and going on knocking on every door I know where every black child is that's in your district and asking every one of those parents to pull their black kids out of school on February 11th when those 2 kids got to go back to court. The other family's not even here. I wonder what kind of trauma they're going through. How dare you sit up there and try to correct me? You don't have no place to correct me. Until you fix the problem in your school district, you don't stand a place to correct me. I'm here to hold you accountable today. That's right, you and every last one of y'all on this board. And the hell is it that somebody from this district that don't even work on the school campus can roll up on the campus and get away with what he got away with? At least your school tried to do what was written in the policy. And where's Mr. Cerruti? Mr. Cerruti, let me get something straight right now. We wrote that policy for black children because of everything that black children was going through at this district. Not that we don't care about other children, and I forwarded all that to you in my letter. But you will be held accountable. And if it means doing everything that I know to do to have every black student walk out of your schools so you can hear us, so you can quit thinking that you can just throw us a bone and we just gonna take it. No, we're not. We pre-warned you. We said we would not allow you to waste our time and our intellectual property to write some stuff down and pretend like you was going through the motions of protecting black children. Not today. Happy Black History Month. This is what y'all gave us. 2 more black children in your school district criminalized at the hands of your staff. Do not ever correct me.
Comments?
Nobody's correcting you. You don't have to yell.
Mr. Taylor?
Board, I'm Charles Taylor, Village Advocate. Like Lorraine, and Allegra stated, we spent almost 18 months or so putting the policy together. And for it not to be implemented all over the district, or for not all the employees of the district to get the notions of what that policy is all about, is a travesty. Black kids, especially in this district, has been brutalized and criminalized over and over again. You don't understand what that does to a child to be sitting in juvenile hall for a fight, not where a weapon was used, not where there was bodily harm or injury, for a fight that had dissipated. And they get hauled off, hidden from their father. They see their dad's coming to get them. Most black boys don't have their father around to come get them, but this kid happened to have his dad. And he sees his dad and he can't go home with his dad. What does that do to that child? What do you think that does to that child? It puts him in a state of mind that he doesn't know what to think or how to act or what to do. The statistics of suicide by young black men is increasing. Why? Because they're being traumatized each and every day. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Ava Nadal. I apologize if I mispronounced your last name. Nadal.
Hey guys, good evening. I'm, ex-employee of Elk Grove School District. I used to work security at Samuel Jackson Middle School. Pipeline in prison. I have a son that's 38 years old who's pipeline in prison. He became a strong-arm felon at Kerr. He didn't steal anything. Dr. Adriani, the counselor, came to Yuba City for my son and testified, and he still spent 30 days. Now my son's an alcoholic. Harvey Waiver. Wow. When I worked at Samuel Jackson Middle School, I had gunshots over my head. Miss Summers was my principal. And thank God for Dave Nevers, wherever he is. I give him all the praise because, man, the history here in the school district, it really blows my mind. I'm an educator. Yeah, I sued the city, a police department for racism. Came here in 1989 to work for Elk Grove. I looked for it in school district, and this is the school district. General Davies, Bob Triggs, Dave Gordon, me. Yeah. You guys, something has to happen because the same issue that Allegra and Lorraine took up, I took up then. We were a village back then. Joyce Crew, a PTA. I was one of the first historians on the PTA board at Samuel Jackson when the Crips and the Bloods ran our schools, okay? Mike Gregorio, Frank Costosimo, yeah. Now I think they're now sheriffs. And guess what I am? I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate, okay? I sit in trials. I've touched every mother who had a child killed by gun violence in the state of California. Even Stephon Clark's grandma, I spent Super Bowl Sunday with her. I'm appalled, you guys. I'm not going to blame each one of you individually, but then again, I have to hold the adults accountable. The grandmother had my phone number from 6 years ago. She called me on the way to the store in the middle of the night and said, my grandson got arrested. I said, why did your grandson get arrested? And when she told me and I saw the video that I saw of an innocent-looking kid, 14 years old, I went to court. I tried all I could because right now I want to pass a law that juveniles can be bailed out. If I commit that same crime, I can bail out. That child's set in jail. And I've been on the phone with that grandmother every day, you guys, and it's really appalling to think that we have kids. Because before I came here, I saw the news on Channel 13. I want you guys all watching. In Grant High School last week, there was a Mexican kid, and I'm not going to say embrace and all that, but this kid walked up to the other kid, demanded his shoes, and punched him, knocked him on the ground, and stumped the blood out of him. Guess what? The black kid went to jail. He got arrested. He was charged. The other kid didn't. There was something wrong with the fact that other kid did not get arrested. He went to the hospital and was coerced to say he had injuries that he did not. Now, these are facts. We have an issue. That kid needs to have that ankle monitor removed, and we need to do everything we can because by the 11th, we will have a walkout. Okay? We'll be at that we'll have these kids walk out. I don't want to go that extra mile because I had a boycott of Samuel Jackson Middle School and Elk Grove School District, and they all walked out. I didn't bring the press here tonight because I can call 5 news cameras. I want to load this up, and we can pack this court. But let's try to resolve these issues on this level so we don't have to take it to the next level because we're prepared to do that, okay? And it's not just a warning, it's a demand. We are demanding that those children are taken off ankle monitor immediately and those charges are dropped. And when you guys see what happened, I'm sure you guys will agree with each one of us as parents and grandparents. I'm a grandmother also. I have a grandchild, Harriet Eddy. She said the only child's been arrested this year is one with drugs, okay? There was no reason for whoever demanded that. I saw things and I will follow it with a letter and I'll CC it to the Board of Education.
Thank you. Okay. Martinez O'Leary, can you call for a motion?
I so call to move consent items agenda 1 through 18. I'm moving.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to our race and equity, educational equity progress report. Mr. Espinoza?
All right. Well, good evening, President Albiani and members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman and Ms. Avalos. I'm glad to be here for our Race and Educational Equity report in February. It is a special month as our districts are busy celebrating Black History Month, and I wanted to also mention that we have shared, in addition to the resources shared by Ms. Black, we've provided to every single school site a guide of resources and ideas to celebrate all, based actually on what schools are doing for Black History Month to celebrate any diversity-oriented month, since we are passing resolutions almost every month relating to diversity and in order to promote that throughout our schools. That's something that we're really working hard to do, and to do it in a very thorough and authentic way as possible. I also wanted to recognize the opportunity to work with you all to focusing on educational equity in our equity walk a few weeks ago at Harriet Eddy Middle School. And I believe that this is a continuing growth and discussion and process that we're all engaged in. Today, we're focused on school, family, and community relationships. In particular, we're going to be highlighting some of the work that is the product of the grant for support for our refugee students, as well as a practice, an exemplar practice from Pinkerton Middle School that about collecting and gathering family feedback and community feedback and building that into an annual ongoing process to inform and engage stakeholders. I want to welcome first to share, in terms of our data updates, some of the ways that we're trying to collect and monitor the outreach for this particular foundation and for our family and community engagement overall. Our program specialist from Family and Community Engagement Office, Ms. Lisa Lavasser, to talk about the Welcoming Schools Checklist.
Good evening, Board President Albiani, board members, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. I'm excited to share with you a brief update on our Welcoming Schools work. Last spring, all principals completed the Welcoming Schools checklist. The checklist includes 4 components: physical environment, school-wide practices, welcoming school staff, and written materials. Each component has a series of questions to answer. Based on the data that we have collected so far, from the checklist as well as from our face pick, my team has created various professional learning opportunities as well as resources and toolkits to help all schools create welcoming environments. We know we are in the beginning stages of this work, but we are excited by what we have seen so far and are very hopeful about the future of this work. Speaking of excitement, I'm excited to tell you about our current and future work with our Refugee Newcomers Program. I'm honored tonight to introduce to you a few members of our Elk Grove Unified team whose work and collaboration are perfect examples of all 3 goals under Foundation 5 and our Equity Strategic Plan. As you know, last year we received 2 grants that provide our district funding to help establish a newcomer refugee program for students and families. The grant covers targeted support for refugee and immigrant families predominantly from Afghanistan. Excuse me. Tonight we will hear from two members of that newcomer refugee program. We will hear from Will Jones, a program specialist from English Learner Services, and Sherry Hughes, our refugee coordinator from the Office of Family and Community Engagement. Sherry?
Thank you and good evening. As Lisa said, my name is Sherry Hughes and I am thrilled to be a part of this exciting and innovative program to help our refugee and immigrant families. We have been busy implementing many programs since the beginning of the school year, some of which are on the slide right now. but I will talk just briefly about 2 of those programs to give you more idea of what is involved. The first one is our after-school tutoring program, which is only possible because of the tireless dedication and creativity of our teachers, EL coordinators, and coaches. In this program, students are receiving supplemental support for English language development, homework assistance, and virtually any other subject, including social emotional learning. We started at the end of last year, with 3 schools participating, and we currently have 7 schools that are participating, with 3 or 4 more that are in the beginning or planning stages. In order to help support the teachers, we have identified 7 paraeducators within our school district that speak Dari, Farsi, or Pashto, and they are joining the team to come to the after-school program to help to make that even more effective. The second program I'd like to talk about is the parent-teacher home visits. I'm sure you're all well aware of the many success stories that have come out of parent-teacher home visits, and for our newcomer and refugee families, we think it's even more impactful. We not only have the opportunity to build relationships and create trust with our families, but we also have the opportunity to display to them firsthand the very dedicated and sincere effort that our district is making to address their needs and their issues. Through our partnership with World Relief, a settlement reagency, we have teamed up with an amazing cultural advisor, Jawad Kawari, who has gone out with me to over 20 home visits in the Irene B. West region. And we have been able to sit down and talk with families and understand firsthand what their needs and priorities are. As a result of that, we have created a survey that has gone out to the Irene B. West Afghan families, and we will be having our first Afghan family engagement dinner in March in order to share with them the results of that survey, and to also engage in a mutually beneficial and decision-making process to decide which programs we will implement going forward.
Good evening. I want to start off by first saying how much ELS values our continued partnership with the Office of Family and Community Engagement, and what has been done with ANA PD, ANA being an acronym for Awareness, Nurturing, and Acceptance, exemplifies that work. I was introduced to the originator of ANA PD, Alia Nasiba, when ELS attended a workshop on immigration at the Sacramento County Office of Education in December of 2018. In 10 minutes, the presenters articulated what had been on my mind for a while, that we have populations of refugee students and families that come to our district with little or heavily interrupted education and trauma, and we must serve them. And that starts with understanding their stories and the refugee experience. And that last line that was delivered to me by them was what moved our team. So we worked with ANA PD to provide a workshop for instructional coaches, bilingual teaching associates, central office administrators, representatives from the Office of Family and Community Engagement, and even representatives from the Sacramento County Office of Education. And the experience was powerful. It was so powerful that we brought ANA PD back as our keynote speakers during the EL Secondary Summer Institute. There we targeted EL coordinators and all 7th through 12th grade teachers. It was one of our best attended keynote presentations. Part of the work in setting up these professional learning opportunities was introducing Alia and Nasiba to partners who could help continue that work. And we are grateful for that continued collaboration. It's through Director Bollinger's support that we were able to bring ANA PD to our EL stakeholders, and through the continued collaboration with the family and through the Office of Family and Community Engagement that we've been able to continue the work.
So just as a follow-up to that, we wanted to explain how now we have taken that as the refugee program and have offered that in September to 50 teachers, principals, and staff members, and we'll be offering it again to 70 teachers, principals, and staff members in March, with plans to continue it in our 2021 school year with at least 2 of those presentations. In addition, we've worked with ANA PD to create a smaller version of that we have taken out directly to Irene B. West and Samuel Kennedy Elementary Schools, which are our two largest population with Afghan students. So not only were we able to educate more and provide this cultural awareness to more of the teachers that are working directly with these students, but we've also allowed for some collaboration and mutual time together. We look forward to doing more of that next year as well. Tashakur, Rosa Shalom Hosh, which means thank you and have a great day, because I don't know how to say evening yet.
All right, and so now to share the work that she did at Pinkerton Middle School, the principal, Ms. Chandra Victor.
Good evening. In November of 2019, we held our second community feedback meeting. Our first meeting was back in March of 2018. We did this in an effort to be proactive with our parent community and to get feedback from them. We really value the input of our parents in our community, and we wanted to hear from them. The purpose of the evening is we know that we are not reaching all students at the same level, and we want to make sure that we are providing an equitable education for all students. Our concerns are with our Black boys, Hispanic boys, and special education students. They are not performing where we believe they should be performing, and so getting parent feedback was really important to us to see what extra pieces we might be missing that we could use to improve our school. For the evening, we invited all parents, and then we had special invites that went out to specific parents, and these were parents that teachers might have had relationships with, or we knew that we wanted to hear from. We set aside 2 hours in the evening. We shared our why as for doing this work, we shared our data, and we shared the equity journey that we have been on the past 5 years since I've been the principal at Elizabeth Pinkerton Middle School. We broke into 2 circles. We had staff members who facilitated, one facilitator, we had a note taker, we had other staff members, and our job was to sit there and listen to our parents and our community members and to ask clarifying questions. We did not respond, we just listened, because that was what the evening was all about, was to hear from them, not for them to spend the evening hearing from us. So the collection of feedback, we had 4 questions that we asked them. We asked, what are the strengths of EPMS? What do you appreciate and what is going well? We asked them, based on your child's individual background, are there any barriers and or challenges your child has had to overcome? What do you wish teachers and staff members knew and or were doing to better support your child? And what is your hope or dream for your school? We took all of this information, compiled it, the facilitators, we all met the following week. We looked at the data, we looked at trends in the data to see if there were any trends. One of the things that popped up for us, which popped up the last time we did a meeting of this nature, was relationships. The community wants us to know their kids, and that's really important to me as the principal of the school, is that we get to know our kids, we get to know our families, we get to know our backgrounds, so we can try to meet them where we are. And I feel like this starts at the top with me, in the crosswalk, in the morning, greeting kids, learning names. That's where it starts, and then that work needs to continue throughout the day from every single person on our campus. We will continue relationship building. We started positive phone calls home at the beginning of the year, last year, based upon the first meeting that we had, and so we're just going to be continuing that work. Another piece that came out of it was staff development, and particularly working with students with ADHD, in particular Black boys with ADHD, working with introverted students and students with anxiety, so we will be doing some work around that. And then the other key piece is just really working on celebrating diversity, and we've already made some steps in that direction as well. So this work helps guide us in what we're doing to propel us forward and to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. Thank you.
All right, so as always, we celebrate and recognize that because we believe it's a strong practice to be replicated at other sites, and we've seen it working well and as a step towards not only building relationships, but better meeting the needs of our students. And so we're gonna build on that piece as we, in our next meeting in March, which will be focused on student-centered supports. So thinking through the input and impact that we get from our stakeholders, but really what kinds of supports do we provide both academically and socio-emotionally to help students both learn and feel a sense of belonging. So that's what we'll be focusing on in our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I had 2 blue cards about this before the board wants to make any comments. Ms. Pryor and Ms. Taylor.
Did I miss the discipline data, like what we're trying to do to fix that issue for black students in your district? Did I miss it? Was I not here the last time this report was given and I asked about the discipline data? Did I miss the presentation on that? I must have. It was at a workshop? Was it a public workshop? So that was during the day when I was at work? So this is the problem. I mean, I think it's great that you have a program specifically focused on refugee kids. I think that's amazing. I want one for black kids. You have an issue with black students in your district. They need some special attention because they're at the bottom statistically in every category except discipline, where they're the highest. They are one of your smallest groups, and I know everybody likes to talk about it's a black and brown issue, but your brown students outnumber them by what, 3 times? Your black students should not have comparable numbers to that of your Latino students or your brown students. That means there's a problem somewhere. So I want a same working group, what I see, nurturing awareness and acceptance. I'm gonna need that group too. I'm gonna need that group for black kids, and I'm gonna need a budget to fix some of these issues specifically that black kids are having in your district. I need some directed resources to the issue of discipline in your district. I want y'all to stop wasting my time coming up in here with this grab bag of tricks talking about everybody when one specific group is having a huge problem in this district. Nobody wants to talk about how racism impacts your discipline numbers. No one wants to talk about how you have black flight in terms of your administrators and your staff. They're leaving here. Stockton is having a pickup game with your discarded administrators. We need to talk about some things. And we can't do that if we're focused on everybody. So I'm going to need a specific presentation that looks at the issue black people are having in this district, black staff, their sense of belonging, the sense of belonging for black students, and how we're going to fix that. I'm going to need that soon because I'm getting frustrated. And I feel like I've been a great partner to this district. I show up, I'm consistent, but it's starting to really piss me off that what I'm talking about is not being talked about. So I'm going to need some focus on that. Thanks.
You know, repeatedly, we've been here for this equity presentation thing, and although I know they're trying real hard and everything else, in the letter that I wrote you in regards to the situation with the other family, I brought up the fact that black students need to be considered a protected class, because I find it real strange that this district finds a way to help every other group except black kids. So I've got a granddaughter that graduated from your school district and had a difficult time prior to graduating from your school district and was hospitalized. She actually could have benefited from some tutoring and some extra assistance, but that's not offered to her. Even as a special ed student, those things aren't offered to students in your school. So how is it that we have all these available resources for refugee kids? That's called a respect to a person. The same energy and the same effort and the same monies and looking for grants and all of this to help refugee kids, you need to consider helping some of these black kids that was born right here in the USA who need some of these same type of assistance. Where are those programs for the black kids? That's what I want to know from this district. You got special things for the Latin kids, you got special groups and things and services for the refugee kids. We've got special arrangements for the LGBTQ community. You even give them a ride to an event that you hosted for them. Where is that same energy, efforts, and money for black kids? Where is that? Why is it that we can't get that kind of equity from this district? You guys are just talking out of your talk. You just talk. You're not showing us nothing. But like I said, we do got a backup plan. So maybe if we pull all the black kids out of your school for 3 days, maybe you guys would see the importance of investing specifically into black children, black families, and their cultural needs. Get an expert to help you. You got experts here. I'm a great-grandmother and a grandmother and a mother with black kids in my family. I'm standing up here out of retirement fighting for black kids in our communities because you guys are not fighting enough for them. So the same way y'all got out there and y'all got that equity team, y'all search for some grant money to help the refugee kids. I'm gonna need y'all to look for some grant money specifically to help the black kids in your district. You know, the one that's at the lowest end of the, you're not educating them, but you're criminalizing them. Find some money for the black kids specifically, because that's equity in our community. That's what equity looks like. Same energy, same kind of money, same kind of time. We want that investment in black children in Elk Grove Unified School District.
Thank you. We have comments from our board for the race and educational equity presentation. Mr. Fortuna?
Yeah, can I have Chandra up? Chandra?
Oh, Chandra.
Good evening.
Hello.
You mentioned two groups, black boys in particular with who are hyperactive and then kids with anxiety issues. What are you doing specifically in terms of your work in addressing those two areas?
So the information we just gathered from the parent meeting in November, so we're still working on formulating what our plan will be. We have a lot of work that we do with individual students, but I think some of it is working with our staff on working with students with anxiety, working with black boys, particularly with ADHD. I think we really could do some work around that area that would help. What that work's going to look like right now, I cannot answer that piece.
Okay, and what about kids with anxiety issues?
Anxiety issue, I think making sure that we have accommodations in place for them. If they have a 504 plan, we're following that. Making sure that our staff is aware of what the signs are with anxiety. It's hidden, you can't always see it. So I think some people think, oh, well, you're just nervous or it's okay. So I think just really trying to build in some work with staff, and we're still working on that plan.
Okay, and do you have any target dates for both of those? Like, are you looking at 6 months, a year, whatever?
I'm looking at trying to do something this school year if we can. If not, definitely into next school year for sure, but I don't really want to wait on the work, but I think it's just making sure we're working with individuals right now as much as we possibly can.
So, you mean you have other things to do?
Just a few. Yeah.
Thank you.
So also for Ms. Victor, I want to congratulate you first on having the courage to hold the type of event that it's a listening session and not another information delivery mode. We find some of our best schools do a lot of listening, and you know, as we just saw, not everyone in education or in government likes to operate that way, where they open themselves up to be informed about their shortcomings, but it's the only way we improve. So I want to thank you for formulating your outreach in that manner. I also was really pleased to hear the categories that you've identified. You know, black boys with ADHD, introverted or students with anxiety. I mean, that to me is really reflective of listening, because you know, it's just drilling deeper down than a lot of folks go in education, but it really gets to the heart of identifying and dismantling barriers to education. So I look forward to hearing how that evolves. And of course, just want to remind you of all the resources we have across the district. If anybody can help you, please make use of those. Let us know what you can use.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Martinez-O'Leary?
I would like to echo the same comments. I appreciate both presentations, and I believe it's important to have a community feedback night for your families and your parents in the community to get their intake and especially feedback on any barriers that may be impacting families or students. And I just had one quick question. I believe there was a notice that might have went home regarding some counseling groups at your school site for some of these type of concerns. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that too?
This is a new thing that has started this year. We have a lot more groups being offered by counseling. So one of them is a student with anxiety group, so that might go back to that. So thank you for bringing that up. So we have many groups that are offered, and it kind of depends on the needs of our students. We have grief group, social skills group. It just kind of depends on what the needs are. So we are offering that for students.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight, I know that's some of the work you're doing there, so thank you.
We do a lot. It's hard to remember everything we do.
Mr. Madison.
Yes, I want to appreciate also your report and the comments you made that when you brought out the African Americans, black kids, and the Hispanics. And I was just curious, what is your suspension ratio on that, on which your subgroups there?
I don't have exact numbers off the top of my head, but I know they're out of proportion. They're disproportionate. They're not where they should be. We are working on that, as we always do, and really trying to work with students and their families and alternatives to suspensions and doing restorative practices as much as we possibly can.
Okay, and then what's I think Mr. Fortuna had asked the community with the subgroups, are you having some success behind that?
You know, for a couple of years, we did have growth, and we really were getting our teeth, I felt, really kind of into the problem. We had a little bit of a setback last year, but that was kind of across the board with discipline data, academic data as well. This year, I feel like we're more on track to kind of where we were before, so I'm expecting to see some movement. I do feel there definitely has been a cultural shift on my campus. That's really one thing that I have been working on my staff with is mindset, and I feel like there has been that shift. It's not perfect, but we definitely are working on that.
Okay, yeah, that was the other thing I was going to ask you from your staff standpoint. Do they have a buy-in totally with what you're trying to accomplish?
They do have a buy-in. I wish I could say it was everybody. It's not, but we're working on that. But we do have buy-in from the teachers.
Okay, I appreciate your report. Thank you.
Ms. Singel.
Great, thank you. Excellent report. Pardon me. So I'll start with the refugee program. How many students would you say are in our district that are classified as refugees?
I'll invite our Lisa Lavasser to share with that. And if I may just, building on the last point,
Yes.
Mr. Madison, that one of the reasons that we are highlighting the work that Chandra made, and I think she mentioned it but wasn't really clear, is that we're moving towards being okay with being targeted in our outreach. And so while she did send a mailer out to every family, she mentioned that she specifically reached out to these groups that she recognized needed specific support and were being most underserved in the school. And so that's the work we're doing, and and this is the season where all of our school sites are developing their sites LCAPs to make plans for the future. And so all of that information is perfect for making plans and putting that into action as we move forward into the next school year.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
To answer your question, 3 years ago, when when this grant from the state came to us, and we thought about applying, 2 years ago, we had 528 families, students from Afghanistan. Today, as of January 15th, we have 838. So, and it continues to grow.
And are all of the refugees from Afghanistan?
And the numbers I gave you, yes.
Okay. And then, so initially when you do some of the outreach, do you find trust or distrust in sort of the outreach efforts, just from the community culture standpoint? Do you feel that there are obstacles in doing some of the work?
I can tell you once we have a cultural ambassador and an interpreter with us and someone who speaks the language, trust is created. It's very hard to come to a new country and a new educational system and to relocate. So there's a lot that they are experiencing trauma-related wise. And so building that trust of asking questions and getting to know them and having someone who can interpret right next to you helps tremendously.
Sure, because I mean, from a cultural standpoint, distrust of government, and while we're in education, it's still government.
Right. And I'll say that we've part of our increase in this population that's actually delayed from some of our other neighboring districts is because several families have moved here and felt very supported here, and there are more and more families being connected, and that's why our population happens to be growing, and they've moved from other parts of the region.
Well, so speaking to that growth, I attended an event at a mosque about a month ago, and there was mention of from families that aren't necessarily dialed in with the district just yet, but there was some discussion of maybe even starting a school. So I'm just putting that out there as just keep that in the back of your mind that there are those discussions. I don't know if it was a charter. I'm assuming they're going to be looking for a charter school at some point, and I don't know if you're aware of that, but it was mentioned at that meeting, so I'm sharing that with you. So maybe it's a place to do some outreach to showcase what you are doing. Right. So perhaps identifying that unique need may not actually exist because the resources do exist here within our district. So right. I think that would be an excellent, and I think Dr. Keval would be your contact for that, who can connect you with the people that were at the event. And then as it relates to, let's see, for Pinkerton, so I've heard, that people of color, students of color, will often be misidentified with special needs, ADHD and things like that. So I'm always mindful of, of that reality. Or are they truly going, do they truly have a special need or a disability, or are they being misclassified because of situational events that could be taking place? So that's just something that I always think about because those statistics have been shared with me over the course of the years of just the misclassification that really does take place within the subgroups of people of color specifically. As it relates to doing some of the outreach, do you participate in sort of more of a culturally appropriate response with, I think someone mentioned community ambassadors, so that there's more buy-in for some of the work? So does that make sense?
Right.
So, and community ambassadors, I mean, it's a vague term. It's not a person or entity, but.
Ms. Victor, would you like to speak to that, the outreach? Yeah, trying to identify other family members, and I believe she mentioned that there are a couple of family members that have been very participative and were identified as key stakeholders in the group that then could be that ambassador to invite other families.
So that the ambassadors are coming, and the response and the appropriateness of the response are coming from a group of people that it's not just administration, but those where there is, buy-in from a cultural standpoint, from a community standpoint, from an ethnic group. Just like you would have from the Afghanistan group, you have somebody within the group. So, within the Black/African American community, do you have somebody within those communities that you work with to come up with a culturally appropriate response in dealing with the students? So that it's more appropriate in terms of buy-in is concerned.
In the response?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what she's asking.
So I think what they're asking is, in processing the feedback, will there be continued participation?
Yes, once we get a plan more formalized, we do have a parent who offered to come in and do workshops for our teachers, so that could be something that we could use as an option. But I think making sure we keep those lines of communications open with all of our families. Again, when we invited families too, we don't just invite families that we think are going to come and say what we want to hear. We were inviting families that maybe had struggles at our school because we wanted to hear from them too as well, so we get an accurate picture of what's going on. But I think it's just continuing to work with those parents, asking for feedback when we need it, or clarification on something, or getting them to help us with something that we may need help with in the future.
Okay. I think that answered my question. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I had one question. You're so popular. We're so interested. No, it's all hard. It's my second meeting. We're in it together. Don't worry about it. Do you have a junior BSU on your campus, or do you do anything with your BSU from your high school CO, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We do not have a BSU. I have a teacher that's interested in getting it started, but it has not gone anywhere. It excited me beyond belief that we were going to have that on our campus. But I do not have a staff member right now that's willing, that has the time. I think she wanted to get it going, and then some things came up, but it's something we would love to have on our campus.
Okay. And I would encourage you even to reach out to your CO, BSU. I know we've seen some in our regional reports and heard of some some high school students coming down and doing some activities with junior high students to even build a positive pipeline into a BSU organization that promotes progress. So that's all I had. I thank you very much for your time. Thank you to all our equity guests tonight. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh. Can we
Would you like to bring everybody up, Matt?
Yeah, if we can take our photo.
Mr. Hoffman? Thank you very much. Would our bargaining units, would anyone like to speak? We're good? All right, thank you. I'd like to move on to our action item of the night, the adoption of the California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Procedures and Informal Bidding Ordinance. Mr. Pierce.
Thank you, President Albiani, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. I'm going to bring Susan Bell up, your Chief Facilities Officer. And before I turn it over to Susan, I just want to...
Excuse me, Mr. Pierce.
Sure, please.
Can we have a quiet in the back, please? Thank you.
As I was saying, before I turn it over to Susan, I just want to share with the board, she obviously has a presentation. I think she can be pretty concise with that. But I would like to thank a few departments. As you know, in Elk Grove, we are extremely deliberate when we make changes and when we make decisions like this. This has been a lot of work. I want to thank the Facilities and Planning Department. I want to thank the Maintenance and Operations Department. I want to thank the Purchasing and Warehouse Department. And I also want to thank our Technology Services Department. Those are all departments and divisions that, should the board adopt the resolution tonight, will benefit from this program. But before we move towards it, we need to make sure that we had all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed, and that we're doing it for the right reasons and that we'll comply with the conditions. We'll refer to this as CUPC. Ms. Albiani did a great job describing it, but we'll refer to it as CUPC. And with that, I'll turn it over to Susan, and she'll present some information and we'll be available to answer any questions.
Good evening, President Albiani, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. The California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act, also known as CUPC. Sometimes you'll even hear it called cupcake. And what is it really? It's part of It was enacted in 1983 under Section 22000 of the Public Contract Code, and it allows public agencies to use force account labor to perform public projects. It provides alternative bid limits for public works projects, and those options are proceeding without bidding on projects that are valued at $60,000 or less, and in those cases we would solicit quotes instead of having a bid process. We would use an informal bid process for projects of just over 60,000 to 200,000, and a formal bid process for projects over 200,000. It also simplifies the procedures for authorization of emergency work. The general bid limits that California school districts have to adhere to are $15,000, and currently every project that is valued at $15,000 or more is bid by those procedures. The alternative bid limits that would be established if we adopt the act provides for projects that are $60,000 or less could be noticed for solicitation of bids, and they would be at $60,000 or less. We would save time in the bid process, and it would reduce the number of formal bids that we do, and it would also expedite contracting for small projects. What is force account? Force account it refers to any work that is done by on public projects using internal forces, such as our maintenance department. Currently, we don't do a lot of force account work, and maintenance, if they were to do public works projects, they would have to account for all their direct and indirect costs. They already have a process in place to track those costs, so it wouldn't represent extra work on their behalf. The general public works requirements are something that we do all the time because we bid every project that exceeds $15,000 or more. So in opting into the act would not change any of the requirements that we have to meet regarding prevailing wages, bonding requirements, fingerprinting requirements, or Field Act DSA compliance, and the change order limit would remain the same. The thing that does change would be that the bidding procedures and the threshold amounts would change. Everything else would remain essentially the same. What would we have to do to implement CUPC? First of all, the governing board has to approve a resolution to become subject to CUPC procedures. Secondly, we would take that resolution and file it with the state controller's office. The entire district would become subject to the act. That would mean every department purchasing technology services, maintenance. And then the board would enact an informal bidding procedure, and we would follow that act for any of the projects that we solicit bids for. The procedures for informal bidding would allow us to have no bid process in projects that are valued at $60,000 or less. We would have a list of qualified vendors that could supply work in each different category, and we would solicit them for quotes on what their cost to do a project would be. For projects that are between $60,000 and $200,000, we would follow an informal bid process, and we would be required to follow the requirements established in that informal bid process that we would adopt. These processes in some ways are a lot similar to how we are typically doing projects already. And an interesting thing is we would not necessarily have to include drawings for some of these projects, and the governing board could delegate authority to award informal contracts to specified staff members. If there is a project that comes out to be approximately 200,000 or slightly over 200,000, the board may pass a resolution by 4/5 the majority awarding a contract up to $212,500. Now, in the formal procedures, it would be very similar to what we are already doing, because every project that is over $15,000, we're bidding it in this manner anyway. We would have to have approved DSA plans and specs. We would put that out, do the advertising the same way we always do, and the agents, we would have to award that project to the lowest responsible bidder or reject all bids. Not dissimilar from what we do with all of our other projects. In the case of emergency contracts, that would remain essentially the same, and posted here are some of the provisions for Public Contract Code Section 22050, which governs the Act. The only difference that we would see as far as emergency projects are concerned is that 4/5 of the board approval is required instead of the unanimous approval that we know in the past. Other provisions under the emergency contracting area is that the district can contract for emergency work or services without a bidding process. Emergency work services can be completed by force account, and that would require ongoing reporting to the board at every meeting until the project is complete. When it comes to lease-back, and pre-qualification and CUPCA and how do they work together, we would not see a difference. The pre-qualification that's required under the Public Contract Code that requires us to pre-qualify contractors for projects that are $1 million or more and that might receive state funding, that is a different process than we would follow for compiling a list of qualified vendors to work on these CUPCA-related projects. So we would not see any conflict there. And what are other districts? Currently, there are 1,250 agencies in the state that participate in CUPCA, and approximately 600 of the 977 school districts in the state are participating in the Act. Some of the nearby school districts, you can see there, most of our neighbors are participating in CUPCA. The CUPCA provisions, that kind of the takeaway is that the entire district would be subject to CUPCA, including the maintenance department. There is a donut hole, but that isn't something that we would pursue at this time because of the limited amount of work that the maintenance and operations department does as far as public works projects. And the district could opt to have maintenance not be a part of the Act, but that is not something that we're trying to achieve here. Any questions?
Ms. Singel? Mr. Madison? Dr. Martinez-Lear?
Thank you for the report. I spoke with the superintendent earlier in the week, so I appreciate the feedback. My understanding, information will still be coming back to the board for certain approvals as well, so thank you.
Ms. Jairus Espinoza? Mr. Forcina?
I didn't have a question before, but I have one now.
A new question.
I hope I can answer.
Oh, and look who's coming.
Only if needed.
My backup.
You said for establishing the list of contractors, you wouldn't use the pre-qual document that we use for construct large projects. What would we use?
The Act requires certain information be provided in order for that vendor to be placed on the list. And it doesn't preclude us from having another qualification document that we ask them to complete. And I think we would work with our legal counsel to make sure that we ask the right questions so we get some of the best vendors that we can on that list. Okay. The pre-qualification process that we use is really lengthy. It goes into their financial status and all of that. With these smaller projects, that may not be necessary. So we would probably solicit vendors that we've already worked with and ask them if they would want to participate. We'd have to notice that we're going to become under the act. So that would go to trade journals and it will flush out other folks. So I think the first thing that we're going to want to do is come up with a questionnaire that is kind of generic, yet achieves perhaps setting a certain level of skill and experience that we're looking for, and then compile the list from that.
Then I have a request, and to save time. When, Rob, we meet to look at the changes in the pre-qual document, and we can put that off until this is ready, and maybe I could look at them both at the same time? And certainly the whole board can see what's there, but I'm talking about the time, the scheduled time to look at pre-qual. We can do them both together.
Absolutely, and I just want to share, as Ms. Bell was indicating, so our current in-depth pre-qualification process has a pretty significant threshold in terms of the dollar amount. Again, we're talking about projects here that are less than $200,000, and really the most value with this tool is we're going to be talking about projects that are $40,000, $50,000 projects. Going through some of these more lengthy pre-qualification processes takes capital, takes time. Some contractors may not want to participate in that. We've had this very conversation. Part of the Act's accountability, if you will, the reason that the state is now comfortable with districts going down this path is we have to maintain a lengthy list of contractors who will submit bids. It keeps kind of that good old boys network from happening. So they actually want to limit your ability to eliminate potential bidders, so you don't put yourself in a position where you're just calling the guy down the street because he's your brother-in-law to do all your projects because of the informal process and the how fast it can happen. So we're happy to look at that with the board, look at things that we can use in a pre-qualification process, so long as it's not in the face of what the Act allows.
Thank you.
But I understand your point.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I would like to call for a motion to approve Resolution 50, 2019-2020, adopting California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Procedures and Informal Bidding Ordinance.
I move Resolution 50.
Second. A first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes. We are on to board member and superintendent reports. We can start to my left this time. Ms. Singh Allen?
No, not a report, or a board member report. Other items.
Okay, we'll come back. Mr. Madison?
Yeah, I have one report. Elk Grove Regional Scholarship Foundation. We had a meeting. We're projected to give out about 180 scholarships this year, about $275,000. We just finished our new website as well, and some of you might want to get on and see how it looks. For me, it's a lot better, a lot more friendly for the public and parents to look at. So it's very good. That's the only committee report I have.
Any committee work, Ms. Martinez-Valera?
Yes, I attended the CSBA Board of Directors meeting, and we did have some more work done on equity, so I wanted just to give an update. And then also, I was appointed by the CSBA president to 2 other committees. One is for the AEC Annual Education Planning Process, so I recently met with that new committee as well. And more information will be coming about the AEC planning as we're planning for December State in Anaheim. And then also I was appointed to board development for CSBA committee, so I will be giving an update when I meet with that committee soon here.
Thank you. No. Okay, other items from the floor. We'll start with Mr. Carmine. Mr. Forcina, sorry. None.
I just want to mention a lot of the board members attended the CSB workshop on equity at Harriet Eddy, along with the superintendent, and for me, it was very beneficial to see the approach of education in a different delivery way with the kids, and particularly an IB program over there as well. So got a lot out of it.
Glad. Thank you.
All right, two things. One is a request for a future presentation from the VAPA director. Would love to see how things are going, what the coordination looks like with the school sites and so forth. So if we can get something.
There other interest in seeing a report?
Definitely.
Yes.
That's unanimous, Mr. Superintendent.
Got it. I didn't doubt it for a second. I wrote it down.
Thank you, Ms. Singhal.
And then the next item, last week I attended, it's called Bite of Reality at Valley High School, put on from with the Safe Credit Union and then a couple of teachers at Valley High School. It's a wonderful real-life exercise with seniors on how to balance their budget. And each senior is assigned basically a career job, and they're allotted what their annual or their monthly income would be and what their spouse's income would be, and they have to visit different booths to figure out their housing needs and desires, balancing with what they can actually afford, transportation, food, and a number of other areas. But it was so well done. Each student got a checkbook, and they actually literally had to write a check and to go through that exercise of what it might look like out there and what it takes to run a household. And I think the students found it very helpful. I know that we do this in 2 of our schools at least. I'm not sure if it's in all of them. I know that Pleasant Grove does it as well. But I just wanted to share with you that it's an amazing program. A lot of work goes into planning that, and Safe Credit Union does an excellent job covering all of the materials. So I can share this if you want to just take a look at it of what it looks like, but I found that extremely valuable, and so did all of the students. They were very engaged in the program, so just wanted to do a shout out to Safe Credit Union for putting that together. And then last but not least, I know that in your board packet you all got this article from AXA, or this we get our newsletters. The most recent one, it was on vaping, of course, and you know, a few months ago I brought up vaping and to get an assessment of what we do, and got some good information back on what we do, but a lot of that is voluntary. We have to seek that out, a parent or a student, and in some cases it is provided depending on the classes. But it's becoming a growing epidemic. I'm hearing from lawmakers, from parents, and even teachers, including our past president with EGEA, Maggie. She even mentioned just the growing problem. I'm just going to read just the 2 sentences here just to show how alarming it is becoming. In yet another twist of worried parents, meet the vaping hoodie. This high school fashion mainstay, defined by a hood with drawstrings, is now available as a vaping device, ready to deliver a puff of nicotine or marijuana anywhere, anytime, including a classroom. Scary stuff.
And our
bathrooms and everywhere else. So this is becoming, I mean, it's not becoming, it is a problem. So Kaiser wrote this article. I imagine there's probably monies out there through Kaiser and grants, but this is something we need to be on the forefront. I know legislators are looking at legislation, but we can do better with our own students in providing the education and to the parents, most importantly. So you all have this. I don't need to share it, but take a look at it. It's very disturbing. That's all I have.
I read that as well. Very
Madam
disturbing.
President, I had one more thing. One request to the primary and the secondary schools on the event calendar. For me, the same schools are on these event calendars. We have 68 schools in this district, and I can't believe it's just the same few schools, a few high schools, a couple middle schools, and a few elementary schools. And they're the only one on this event. So I would appreciate on your next meetings, when you talk to your principals, if they have some events, we would like for you to show them. I think the communications department put effort in this every week going out, and it's kudos to the same schools. So I don't mean a complaint, but I just want to bring that
Chair, is this
point
one?
out. Okay?
I just want to piggyback on that. If we're throwing requests out, it would be really helpful to know the end time of events, since a lot of times we'll try to hit multiple events in the same evening or something like that. So that would be very helpful.
Do you want to add something, Mr. Hoffman? Okay. I wanted to bring up to the board, we have our senior awards, it says Academy Awards, academic awards, outstanding scholars, promotions, and graduation, and some have signed up for this. We are short only 5 nights to be able to hit every senior award and student award and dinner. So if I could ask you to get on this as soon as possible. I know plans change, but if we can get committed, and then when things do change, we can work to help and cover each other. But I just made a commitment to Mr. Hoffman that we would try to get to every one of these. And so there's one on 429, 55, 51, 514, and 521 are the ones that are not covered by anyone at this point that I feel are a bare minimum for us to show our support.
Yeah, I agree, and it became a challenge after we stopped meeting as a whole with all the schools together, and this is a large district, and now it's even more challenging because you feel for some of these schools, nobody's there, they got just a staff member from the district, and I think that's a very important event and to honor these overachieving kids. And when you don't have the higher ups there and board members all there, it's doesn't show the importance to me.
My second point is that I did speak to Mr. Hoffman about having a participatory for us to shake a hand or give an award or be a participant, but it is rightfully, we have to commit to being there to become part of their program. If we're hit and miss, then we mess up their program instead of add to it. And our job is to be there to add to it and show the seriousness and appreciation of the students and the people. So we'll work on sending out some reminders as these get closer and making sure we have the right times and places to possibly month by month, you know, you've committed to these this month at this time, this place, with a number of who you can call if you need to change, and to let me know, because I can either get it covered myself or get someone to cover it for us. So if we can get that done by the next meeting, I'd greatly appreciate it. I would like to adjourn at this beautiful time of 8:06.